Okay, looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Melisa Keenan. I'm the founder of the Heart Open Publishing Enterprise and intimacy expert for the past 7 years. Been helping people in their intimacy and relationships. And have with me today Darshana Avila. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Melissa. Yes, Darshana Avila. I am an erotic wholeness guide. My work sits at the intersection of trauma healing, somatic sex, and intimacy guidance, and how we really get to come alive from a very pleasure-centric place, in our intimate relationships, starting with the one we have with ourselves. So,
I love that. And Darshana is going to be an author in our upcoming book, Embracing Your Eros, which I've just been so excited. Darshana and I haven't even known each other for that long. And it was really inspiring to me that when she, heard me talk about the project and the process and what we're doing, she was like, I need to be a part of this. I would love to start with, what would you say Eros means to you? Because I find everybody has a different thing about this. It's
yeah,
a very
yeah.
nuanced umbrella term.
Yeah, I mean, and since I call myself an erotic wholeness guide, this is a conversation I have often. And I get why so many people have different takes on it, largely because our culture has taught us to think Eros and sexuality are exactly like identical, that they're synonymous terms. And for me, I borrow more from a definition that someone like Audre Lorde, who Black intersectional feminist, who was a tremendous influence and educator, that has paved the way for so many of us, like women and queer folks and such today, to be more in our power. And Audre speaks about eroticism and eros more as a synonym for life force energy, right? So then it's infused into our sexuality, but it's also there and present in how we are sensual, how we are relational, how we are emotional. It shows up in our artistry, our creativity, our activism. So anywhere that zest for life, that passion, even if it's if it can get channeled into like rage and grief as much as it can be present in joy and praise, it's that aliveness. So for me, when I speak about eros and eroticism, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm interested in. And that's what, in my work, I'm helping people to access within themselves and then channel with intention.
Oh, I love that so much. I've seen that time and again in myself and in many clients, that piece that you pointed out about so often a woman would come to me and be like, I'm shut down around sex and I'm not interested in whatever. And then if we just did a little digging into her anger, it was like she was never expressing her anger. And just forming a relationship with that about how do I healthily express my anger would then translate into now suddenly I have this sexual hunger or whatever. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. And it's like, your mention of my like, wow, I really resonate with you when we first connected, it had to do with that because I just got this little snippet of your story, like the who you were and how you were acculturated and that tipping point for you that I only even know a little bit about, but going from a religious like conservatism and a very clear, like, this is the way you live your life to, whoa, there's more here. That to me is such a clear example of you tapped into your eroticism to be able to affect that kind of change and live the life you're living now. I have my own version of that, and that's probably going to make its way into the chapter in the book. So it really is like I think the resonance for me, like it's easy and simple are two different words. Easy to like perform sexy and sexual, but it is not like you can't fake or force eros in its true form. Like it's an uprising of energy that is magnetic and it's powerful and it's compelling. And so when I sense that in another person, it's like, ooh, I want to go toward that. That's how I felt about you, and that's the type of thing I witness. I have a private practice where I work with people day in and day out in this realm, and I watch it happen all the time, and it's such a compelling and magnetic force when it's genuinely flowing. So our work is to clear whatever's blocking it, right?
I love that. I love that. And even like, I mean, I would say in my intimacy work, studying Eros and helping people with Eros was sort of like I didn't know I was doing it. I was sort of touching something that I didn't really understand. And now in a new iteration of my life, it has become my greatest teacher. It's been like this, amazing. And but even with that, and I'm curious what you would say to this too, like there are days I wake up and I think like what am I doing leading a book about Eros? Like, it's so elusive. Like, sometimes I wake up so excited and energized about life, and other days it feels like, I don't know anything. Everything is upside down. And what do I even know about my turn on or, or whatever? And I actually have heard other people say that. And I've even had potential authors say, like, I don't think I've mastered it enough to be able to write about it in a book. And I think we probably all of us authors will feel that way at some point. I'm curious if you feel that way, Darshana, at times in your life. Like, what is Eros?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I question what Eros is. I actually feel very clear in that, but I 100% have days when I wake up and I'm like, seriously? Like I can't get it up for anything right now, like, and life is hard. And I, like most of us, have been on my journey of ups and downs with my emotional and spiritual health. And then how does that affect me mentally and the way I'm showing up? And I think perhaps one of the most valuable lessons in all of that, and so both an inflection point and a pivot point, is instead of resisting those things and instead of slapping a label on them that says bad or, like I don't want this, what's actually been most meaningful, and this is what I mean when I say that Eros is present in our rage, it's present in our grief, it's present in those moments that feel agonizingly hard, that too is aliveness. And so when we orient to it as such and stops like trying to refuse this aspect of ourselves, what ends up happening, maybe not instantaneously, although it has happened for me quite swiftly. Like I have gone from hysterically crying to hysterically laughing. When I have given myself over to those dark moments, those challenging feelings, invariably they transmute, right? And this is no different than, to put it in a sexual example, why I and many others, like I facilitate, deep hands-on, hands-in work with my clients. I am a purveyor of orgasmic experience. And I've watched so many clients on my table be in the throes of an orgasm and then all of a sudden crack open sobbing from some deep place within themselves. And they're not separate. So the more of one is going to give you access to the more of the other. The more capacity to hold yourself and the people you also care about and want to be in intimate connection with, that the more you can hold the challenging moments, the more capacity you're also growing to be with the delight and the ecstasy and the bliss of it all. That is my belief, and that's my lived experience.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's like anytime we can really fully give ourselves over to the experience in the present moment of what life is bringing us, like that is Eros. And man, I get to have a lot of those experiences. And sometimes I feel like I just wrote about this a few, whatever, maybe a week or two ago. Like life is so big for me. It's just big. And sometimes people are like, does it always have to be lightning and thunder with you? And I had this sweet friend, my friend Haben, said to me, I love your lightning and thunder. It gives me permission to be in my lightning and thunder. I'm like, yeah.
It's funny. I just wrote this whole, it was a newsletter about permission, like how valuable it is, how essential it is for permission to be given. And so I want to like reference that to something you said before of like people who think I haven't mastered Eros or I'm not far enough along or whatever. The thing is, no one says you need to have mastered it. No one, like, whose definition of far enough or whose measure of far enough are you actually like going by? What actually is important is, if you, Melissa, come and seek my guidance and I am one or two or three steps further on the path than you are, that gives me a perspective from which to turn around and extend my hand to you and say, here, come this way. let me share from you, like from my wisdom, from my lived experience, and trust that there will be guidance for you in that. There will be inspiration, there will be permission for you to take your next steps. So that's what we're doing only and ever, like
Love
this
that.
idea of mastery, I think it just places a lot of freaking pressure on ourselves. And it also creates like very much like that phenomenon of like placing people up on a pedestal
Yeah,
and
exactly.
projecting all the goodness onto them instead of really like being clear and like I own my power. I own my worth.
Mm,
So
I love that.
that's funny. And this is I think this is some of what's going to be in my chapter.
I
So
love that. I think when it comes to this book, and we launched this book the end of last year, but it took me and my kind of soul time to attune to exactly what the message is and what, like, who we needed to have in this book. And it became really clear to me that, like, oh, it makes me emotional because I lived my life believing that anything that exists within this box, and my box is different than everybody's, but I think we kind of all end up growing up with some element of whatever is inside this box is okay. Anything outside of this box is bad or wrong. And I felt very afraid of many of the people that I'm now calling into this book. I felt afraid of people who were willing to question their gender identity. I felt afraid of people who were willing to question their sexual orientation and willing to take those steps into whatever that meant, because there it meant so much change. And I was so afraid of, like, what if that means that it's going to make me change? Or what if my children meet them and then suddenly they're going to need to go through this big change and it's hard? And I was afraid of the hard, and I was afraid of all of what it meant because it was outside of the box. And now I'm in this space of like, what kind of this this freedom that even I feel, although I'm not questioning much of that in my life, the freedom that I feel now, knowing that there are not people that I have to be afraid of, and that there are people, it actually has shifted so much for me. There are people that are going through these journeys that I'm like in such awe. Like, they're the most courageous people I've ever met. And it's been so cool meeting people who are like, yeah, I'm out here sharing my story, or I help people with their transitions, or whatever. Like, there's so much judgment. And when we step out of that, like, me stepping out of that has been nothing but a blessing to me. And then I am certain that has a huge ripple effect of blessing the whole wide world, to like drop the judgment. And so I think that that is part of why this book is so important. And there will be a weaving of every kind of story. And I hope that people who are a little bit afraid will, who have followed me for years and maybe are still in a Christian conservative, mindset, will crack open the pages and just take a courageous step to see, like, what is the fabric of these people, because they're human. And at the end of the day, we all put on our pants one leg at a time. And, and yet they were willing to do really hella brave stuff. And I'd be curious what you have to say about that in relation to the book and stuff.
I mean, it touches me deeply when you speak to that and the emotion that comes through, because, I didn't grow up in a religiously conservative way. I have grown up quite liberal and progressive always, and only become more so. So I come from a different perspective and background than you. That also means then that there's a way where the how you speak and who you have access to and who is going to listen to you might differ from who's drawn to listen to me. So when I hear you share a message of the acknowledgement, the vulnerable, courageous acknowledgement that I used to fear people who were different in these ways. And now I hold it with awe when I consider these people, and I can recognize their courage and their humanity. When I speak about my work, even though I do a lot in private practice where I'm working with an individual or a couple, my big why is that every piece of that is in service to our collective liberation. every piece,
Mhm.
every individual's journey. So you are also bringing a message that is a service to our collective liberation. Like, why are we so afraid of difference? Really? Like, when we
Really.
stop to ask ourselves, like, why? Like, where did we learn this? Whose conditioning is this? Whose rules are we playing by that we could just paint with a single brushstroke entire groups of people and say bad or dangerous or other? And so this book and your passion and the things that I value and some of the people that I am excited to weave deeper community with around this offering, like it's that's what we're up to. Like
That's
let's
what we're
just
up
pull back
to.
the curtain a little and connect human to human. There's nothing more natural than our erotic nature. It's who we are. It's like it is our vitality, our life force. We are not made this way by accident, like
A
so
thousand
here
percent.
we're going to have a collection of beautiful stories and sharings from all these different perspectives that are not accidental and they're not wrong because they exist. That's how we know they're good and right, because we exist. Queer folks exist, kinky folks exist, polyamorous folks exist alongside straight, vanilla, monogamous, like whatever our differences,
Yeah.
racial, religious, like who cares? We're all here. Like, let's just make it good.
Yes.
So,
A thousand
and that might
percent.
seem a little pie in the sky, but it's the world I want to be living in.
A
So,
thousand percent. And I think that is the message of Eros is like actually a lot of these people, while the journey has been like hell and, death and rebirth again and again, it's like, why do it? Because it actually does bring more joy into my life. I do feel more whole. And that is true of whatever the journey is. Like whether you're telling your story of being married for 25 years and finally experiencing your first orgasm, or you're telling your story of some major other kind of transition that has happened as a result of the erotic energy in your life. So I'm so grateful, Darshana, for you taking this time to come on and for us to get to co-create this together. We just had our first group author call today for the Embracing Your Eros authors. We're at about half, so we have space for more authors in this book. And the energy and oh my gosh, it's so yummy. It's just going to be so fantastic. If you have an interest in writing with us in Embracing Your Eros, discovering vibrance, passion, magic, and abundance through embodied sensuality, please reach out to me, or you can reach out to Darshana and she can introduce us. And I'm the publisher, and we would love to talk with you about featuring your story and holding your truth so sacred and letting it be seen by more of the world. And I'll also put a link here. We'll include a link somewhere, wherever you're seeing this, to the landing page itself, which has a wait list. So you can get onto the wait list if you're just interested in being a reader. You can get into that wait list. We plan to launch this fall. So by the end of this year, this book is coming out and can be in your hands in your living room. Thanks
can't
again. You
wait.
have any last things you want to say, Darshana?
No, just I'm really, really excited and delighted to be part of this. And I very much trust that those who are curious and coming in, like we're going to be an amazing group. Already the group that's formed is, and I love to see how the synchronicities will unfold. So thanks,
Love
Mel.
it. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see y'all next time.